to Connected 3 Unplugged, and I'm joined here with Daniel Rowles, and we are at Up North. So Daniel, do you want to start off by telling us a little bit about you and your current role at Target Internet and Imperial College?
Yes, so I am CEO of Target Internet, and we are basically an online training company. I'm a program director at Imperial College, so I head up digital marketing and digital transformation at a business school, and then I do the digital marketing podcast, which is part of Target Internet as well.
In 5 years, where do you see digital marketing, and what impact will AI have on this, do you think?
So we just did the keynote here at Up North, obviously, and I think the bottom line is we just don't know where we're going to be in 5 years, and that's the big thing. Disruption is the key challenge in that things are changing very, very quickly, and the whole thing about digital transformation is saying, where are we now? Where do we need to be in order to cope with this fast-changing environment? But the environment is changing ever more quickly as well. So I think realistically, we can't make 5-year plans anymore, which means that what we need to do is look at a 1-year plan, and then we need iterative processes. So we need to build innovation into our organizations. So I think realistically, where digital marketing is people are not staying up to date. That's the bottom line. So realistically, if we want to survive and we don't want to be disrupted, we have to be the organization that upskills our teams, and we have to have innovation processes so that we can keep kind of adjusting and kind of going through this changing world.
Are there any key considerations that businesses should make when looking to integrate AI in their day-to-day?
Yeah, so the thing is, first of all, it's not very trustworthy at the moment.
Okay.
So it will give you completely fake answers and do it very, very confidently. So you've got that risk. If you're exposing that to your target audiences, you've got to be really confident how is that going to damage your brand, potentially. Where we are at the moment, we've got these generic chat GPT kind of things, where actually what you're going to move towards is taking that and training it on your content. And that's when it gets interesting. So if I can take the 2,000 blog posts we've written and then say, here's our knowledge, when people ask questions, give them insights, there's where it starts to get interesting. But do you want the general chat GPT to have all of that, or do you want to keep that kind of walled behind your own? And that's probably where people want to be. So when they've got these AIs where they can wall and kind of ring fence their own content, it will start to be much more representative of the brands. So that's where I've started to be thinking.
In your current role, how does AI help you day to day? And should people in the industry be worried about AI replacing their role?
I think it will be replacing parts of their roles. And so, for example, if I'm writing an email or I'm writing a blog post, I'll type in an idea for the title and then ask it for 5 different variations. And it'll invariably come up with slightly better. And I think that's, if it's augmenting what we're doing, that's great. For writing, if you're a great writer, AI is not going to replace you. You're always going to be slightly better. But for definitions, things like that, it can help. So I think it's working out where it augments, where it can streamline, where it can speed up, and where it can help you with things like A/B testing out, trying different versions. That's where the power probably is.
Today you did a talk at Up North on the future of digital marketing. Are there any specific techniques that businesses can use to investigate this? Yeah,
so I would be off. We've got something called the Digital Marketing Toolkit. So if you just Google Digital Marketing Toolkit, it'll be #1 in Google. And it's got loads of the latest tools in there, and you should be experimenting with them all the time. We all need a policy of how we use all these tools, and we need a bit of a roadmap. Now that will change constantly, but you need to have a first stab at it from that point of view. So I think that's a good place to start. You want to go on to one of there's loads of really good LinkedIn newsletters about latest trends. You need some way of feeding those insights into the team. And maybe have a thing like once a week, once a month, we get together and go, this is what's new, how could we apply it? And that bakes innovation into your organization a little bit. So you just need some structure. And if you give it some structure, that'll help. If you don't, someone's going to come along, disrupt, and kind of just take a lead on us.
What has been your best failure within your career?
Man, I've had a lot. I think when I first came out of university, I applied to lots and lots of graduate programs, thinking I'd go into one of these big companies to do a graduate program. And I think I applied to like 20 and I got accepted for 0. So I thought, well, I'll go and start my own company. That'll be easy. And I started my own company. I didn't know what I was doing at all. We were building websites back then. And that was online marketing. And it was the .com boom, which is a long, long time ago. And we basically end up with 2 clients. All of our work was with 2 clients, and they both went bankrupt on the same day. So that was a real steep learning curve at that kind of stage as well. So you kind of learn from doing in that way. The other one, I've done a lot of public speaking. And I think my most spectacular moment was when I fell off the stage at the British Museum. So I was bouncing on the stage, which I tend to do, and I literally
Yeah.
went off behind the
Oh my
curtain.
gosh.
There was a huge gasp from the audience, as you can imagine, and then I appeared at the side, and I was kind of limping for the rest of it. So yeah,
Oh
so
my
we've had some
gosh.
spectacular moments on stage,
Yeah.
but I think the ignorance of youth was a really good thing, whereas I just got stuck in and started a business, and then you learn from doing, and you can go to all the business education in the world until you're doing it. That's where the learning happens.
Yeah, I think that's such good advice. What has been the best investment of your time you've ever made?
I think from recruitment, right? So I was growing agencies, and we were growing very, very, very quickly, and you were desperate to bring new people in, and that was at the expense of bringing the right people in.
Right.
So actually, I think the best investment in time is getting to know people and actually recruiting less people, but recruiting better people.
Yeah.
So I think that investment in time is probably where it is, because what I want to do is get a great team, so I need to do less and less.
Yes.
And that's what we've managed to achieve over the years.
Yeah.
And that it's not been easy, but by getting the right people, everything else works better.
Yeah,
So I think that investment in recruitment is really important, not doing it quickly, doing it better.
What has been the best influence on your career, or who?
I think this is going to sound quite cheesy, but it is probably my wife, because we run a company together, which is pretty unusual, right? So I was managing director of the business,
Yes.
and we were growing pretty quickly, and I needed someone with a lot of skills that I couldn't afford.
Yeah.
She was coming back from maternity leave. She was like, okay, I'll do it, grudgingly. Then I realised actually she would be a much better MD than me, so she became MD and I became kind of CEO. And what I learned is from that process was what I was good at, but what I wasn't good at.
Yeah.
And when you realise that, you can stop trying to thrash doing those things and actually focus on the stuff that you're probably good at. So I think having that very, very blunt feedback that you get from your spouse in terms of what's good, what's not, what you should be focusing on, I think that's really helpful. So it doesn't have to be your spouse, but my point is if you've got someone, a sort of mentor or someone in your career that will give you really blunt feedback and you can take that positively, that can be really, really effective in helping you to grow and to really focus in on what's important.
Yeah, for sure. I feel like sometimes people find it really difficult when they're in the role of like managing director or CEO to really, really give up that like it's yours, you know, it's like your whole child, like the business, you know. So
Massively.
that can be a real sticking point, I think, for businesses to grow.
Completely. I mean, we did a rebrand recently, and I found it really difficult. So I'd come up with the original brand.
Yeah.
So to let go of something that was your baby and actually get this new thing to complete and go, well, this is all the things wrong with it. It's quite hard, but that's what leads to growth, is actually looking at
For sure.
what you're not brilliant at, accepting that and trying to actually positively learn from it. Google have some really good practical techniques for doing it.
Okay.
So they have their whole review process. So managers are reviewed by the people they manage.
Yeah.
And they're asked questions like, does this person help me do what I need to do without micromanaging me? And if they don't get great feedback, they're not a manager anymore, which is kind of the opposite way around to a lot of organizations. So I think there's process ways of doing this so that you make sure that everyone is supporting everyone else in a productive, and the whole idea of constructive feedback, of having a culture of psychological safety.
Yeah.
So that I feel like I can say to you, I think we could do it better like this, without someone taking great offense, but also how you deliver that's really important as well.
Majorly, definitely. And final question, what advice would you give to your younger self?
I think the best step I took in my career was to go into an agency really early on. So I did my own thing for a while. When that all fell apart, I went into an agency and I was the third employee in. I think you learn in an agency environment so much because you're doing so many different things, so many different clients. So I think that was a great step. And with hindsight going, I'd really recommend other people do that as well. The other thing is, if you find something scary, make yourself do it. So I had a complete phobia of public speaking. To the extent, literally, if I had to do a 5-minute talk, I would be physically ill for days, like that bad.
Wow.
And I realised it was going to really hold me back.
Yeah.
So what I decided I would do is like desensitise myself, do a minute, 5 minutes, and now I do keynotes and all those kind of things. And it just shows that even if something you think you're terrible at can end up being your strength. And even every time I tell that story, it amazes me to look back and think, wow, I found that so unpleasant, and now I really love doing it. So you can change. And you know, people say, oh, people don't change. You absolutely can. You just need to put your mind to it.
You know, for sure. Well, you did amazing today, so you would never have guessed in a million years that.
No, and I actually enjoy it now. And I've gone from, and it didn't happen immediately. It started off as like, can I get through it? Then can I do a slightly better job? To the point where the adrenaline hadn't taken over. So it's there enough to make you on the right level, but it isn't dominating. So therefore you can actually have a conversation with the audience.
For sure.
And what I realised as well is if you're passionate about something, you can get away without being the best public speaker in the world, just because that passion hopefully comes across, and therefore that enthusiasm makes a big difference.
Yeah.
So you don't need to be perfect, you just need to have a passion for something.
Love that. That's perfect to end on. Well, thank you so much, Daniel, for joining us, and we'll see you next time.